So, welcome to another episode of Confessions of a CRA. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I have another amazing guest to share with you, Janvi Shah, and she is going to share her journey of, how she became a CRA. She's originally from India, and that's where she completed her undergrad in her undergraduate education in pharmacy. And then she also did an MBA in pharmaceutical technology. And post-graduation, she came to the U.S. to pursue her master's in clinical research at UC San Diego. And during her master's, she was introduced to the world of clinical research. And soon after graduation, she actually was able to start working as a CRA. So, definitely excited to bring her here to you today for all of you international viewers and listeners. Definitely you want to check out her story. So welcome, Janvi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. And I'd like to just say hello to audiences. So, hi, everyone. You already know a bit about me. Thank you for the introduction. And I am really looking forward to, answering a couple of questions, having this candid chat and letting people know about, how can you reach, to that, how can you land a dream job that you want, especially a CRA job, which is like really difficult. Yeah.
Yes, it's like finding a needle in a haystack at this point. So, let's go ahead and get started with your education. And, I mentioned that you went to, you did an undergrad degree in pharmacy. So start there back in India with your education and what made you even pursue that particular degree?
Yes. So, I really have a very typical story that most of, the Indian students do have. I really wanted to aim for medical, and couple of reasons, I was really adamant on the fact that I didn't want to go into dental or, physiotherapy. I really wanted to do a core medical degree, and I was not able to land I would say a college, which was like a government college with low fees. I got admissions from private college, and that was something that I was not willing to do. I was not willing to pay a lot of money at that time. And I had a second option in mind, which was pharmacy. And that is, that's an ideal scenario for most of the Indians, that's a fact. So I applied for a couple of pharmacy colleges, and one of them was Narsi Monji, the college that I graduated from. So the way it worked was that this particular university offered a dual degree course, which was pharmacy, which is also known as Bachelor's of Pharmacy in India, and MBA in pharmaceutical technology. So, 5 years of study time, it goes hand in hand. At the end of 5 years, you receive 2 degrees. So I had a lot of management experience as well as pharma experience. I did a couple of internships in management and pharmacy both. And then just after I graduated, and honestly, it was a very quick decision. I decided that I wanted to be in the United States in 2018. I think October of 2018, I started studying, gave my GRE, gave my TOEFL, applied to universities. That's when, I was looking at what I really wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in research, but I also knew that I had management experience. So when I was looking into a lot of things, what were the different master's options that I had in the United States, I came across public health, I came across pharmaceutical sciences, and then I came across clinical research. So when I really came to the United States, clinical research was something that I chose because I did learn about clinical trials during my pharmacy education. We were exposed to the world of clinical trials because we were learning about drugs and how do the drugs come to the market, clinical trials, right? So I did know about it. I knew that, trials exist, but I had no idea that, the different aspects of clinical trials. I didn't know that you actually needed a job like CRA, you
Mm-hmm.
needed a monitor or something like that. I knew that a sponsor company sponsors a trial, and there are different other, other people who come in to help. We have safety and regulations in place, but I had no idea about a CRA.
Mm-hmm.
But since I wanted to be close to research, I took the chance. 2019, I graduated. I gave my final exams in May. I graduated. I was here in June of 2019. And I didn't even really wait for my convocation back in India. I was just here. And then I started the journey. And here I am today. There are a couple of things that I really wanted to highlight. I really want this to be a conversation and not a one-way thing. So, there are different universities that you can actually target in the United States, and majority of my 2018 and early 2019 went in doing the research of what type of universities I wanted to be in. Because like I said, being an international student, there are multiple things that you need to consider, a lot of planning. Personally, I did not have a lot of time. I made a couple of mistakes, but there's a lot of planning that goes into place, before you actually even think about a university and apply for it.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is my story.
Wow. And before we, of course, there's a lot of questions I have about the things that you said, but just to kind of quickly touch on that last point, you said there's a few universities that you can specifically target. Mm-hmm. So what would, those, if for people like you in your position, what universities would you recommend that they target?
Correct. So I would say specifically for CRA positions or just in general clinical research, what I did is I really typed in Google, universities in USA for clinical research. And trust me, this is what I did. And then, the first couple of things are just ads, and I went into and I saw a couple of other courses. Based on that, I did a lot of research in terms of the courses that were provided. The rank of the university, and then the fees. That was another thing, because I was going to take a loan. I really needed to know the amount of debt I had. And then my last criteria was the area. So it was either West Coast or East Coast, right? And that was important for me because I just cannot bear cold. So I really had to keep options, open for myself based on that. The criteria has changed from people to people, but these were the ones that I selected for myself. In India, we have, these consultants that really help you with understanding that, if you really want to target a certain area, a certain degree, what are the different universities that you could target. So I was also working with a consultant who really helped me with drafting my SOPs and making me understand the various documents that I would need, visa applications, the H1B, the F1 application that I need, so everything. So that was a different planning part, but they really also helped me understand that what colleges should I target. So based on my research and the help that I received, I came down to 5 or 6 universities. So my list was, the first one was Stanford University. They actually, they provide a master's in clinical research. And if you were really willing to, be more into core research, they provide a PhD in clinical research. My second option was NYU. The Dental School of NYU, they provide a master's in clinical research. Then I had Boston University. They have a master's program. Then we have Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, MCPHS. They had a master's program. I applied to UCSD for a MAS degree. This was a 1-year degree, but it was a full-fledged master's program. Then I also applied, for a safer option, I applied for a pharmaceutical, proper core pharmaceutical degree at SUNY Buffalo. So these were the couple of universities that I targeted. Apart from SUNY Buffalo and Stanford, I received an admit from all the colleges. The way I decided UCSD, it is funny because, I ended up comparing two colleges, NYU and UCSD, based upon, the companies I could work in, the area, basically, like, the standard of living in California, the pay scale, the fees at the college, the courses. My last decision factor was that NYU is in New York, it's going to have snow, I can't be there. And I was in UCSD. And it is funny, but it really mattered to me. And I am so happy that I am not in New York because, recently I did a trip in New York and the cold, I wouldn't be able to survive. I mean, that's just not me. And right now I am in the sunny San Diego. So I am happier. But yeah, everybody has a different set of criteria. And I really think that, it is important to make a couple of decisions. Coming to the mistake I made, I really loved UCSD. I enjoyed all my courses. But what happened is that since UCSD offered the course just in a year's time, so you were doing a master's degree in a year, we have quarter systems here, and I had 6 courses every quarter. The amount of assignments, studying, and a lot of things going on together, and especially when you are an international student, you're trying to settle in, looking for flats, you're looking for so many different things. It was difficult. What really helped me was my BPharm and MBA background. Since I was doing dual degree there, I had a habit of working on multiple courses, but in a semester, I would say category, not a quarter category. So I had like 2 semesters there. So I was able to take 10 courses or probably more. But here, in a span of 2.5 months, you're just doing 6 courses. So at times I really feel that, I wish I considered that option more, because not everybody is able to take that pressure. Correct. Mm-hmm. So these are a couple of things that I would always say that, people need to consider, understand, research more. I really had really less time because I just made a decision probably a couple of months ago. Even within a year, I was in the United States. I decided in October 2018, June 2019, I was here. But I know people who plan for like 2 years. The moment they start doing their undergrad, they start planning, what's next. I have juniors who are currently in the first or the second year, probably, reaching out to me on LinkedIn, or, some of them have my cell number and they reach out to me and they ask me, what did you do? What were the considerations? Mm-hmm. So I think that research is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's intense. Mm-hmm. To take all of those classes in a quarter, that's wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so now you going along your journey, the story you're sharing. Now you're in the US, you enrolled in the master's program, you're, reaching graduation. Did you think about becoming a CRA, or did you find out about the CRA role while you were in the graduate program, or was it after? And when did you decide that, okay, I definitely want to be a CRA. Now I'm going to pursue the CRA role?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I came to the United States, like I said, I wanted to be in research, and I kind of wanted to do a PhD. And one of the reasons I also targeted Stanford was because, they had a PhD course in clinical research as well. So, I just wanted to be close to research. I knew about trials. I wanted to be close to that. My master's program, what I learned more about was the research aspect, from developing protocols. We did have a lot about communication skills that you require. I did learn about safety. I did learn about monitoring. I also had a certification. So, I could also do a specialization in translational sciences. So, that is what I did. I I was supposed to take a couple of extra credits. I did that, and I also kind of have a specialization there. So there was a lot of research involved. But you know, uh, about to graduate, complete almost on the verge of completing my thesis. I get into the market to search for jobs, because being an international student, you kind of have a fixed amount of time within which you need to actually find a job to be able to work in the United States. So I was completely doing that, and I came across multiple job titles like CRC, CRAs, monitors, monitors, safety specialist. And initially, it took me some time to educate myself on, what exactly these roles were. Mm-hmm. I really had no idea that a monitor and a CRA could be the same thing, just different titles at different, companies. Mm-hmm. I targeted CRCs because, from what I actually started doing is I went on LinkedIn. I started looking up for people, who are in the clinical research industries. I came across a lot of people who work as a CRC or a CRA, but they started they started on a certification course. I reached out to some of the seniors who had done the same course as I did. I really struggled to find someone who was an international student, did something really similar to me, and, made a career. Yeah. So I kind of, started following people who were CRCs and CRAs, and I just went to the LinkedIn and I looked at their history, what they have done, what they have studied, any certificates that I can do, or, anything else. And I tried educating myself as much as I can before I started applying or understanding what I really wanted to do. From what I realized, that CRAs were actually CRCs before. So I thought probably I will have to start the same way. I started applying for CRCs. I was also trying to apply for CRAs, but the way I structured my resume was more to focus on the CRC job. So, it was getting really difficult to land a CRA job. During these interviews, I actually realized that, what are the different I would say, oh God, I'm not getting the word, oh God. What are the different actually things the CRAs do, like monitoring,
like
managing
responsibilities,
tasks. Yes, duties. Thank you so much. I just love the word.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so the responsibilities, and that's when I realized that there's a thing known as a traveling CRA, a monitor who work on monitoring, source verifying, and things like that. And then there are CRAs, in-house CRAs who work on managing trials, from a sponsor perspective, or who are more involved in management. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized that I had an MBA degree. I knew about management. Why can I not use that, in my resume to promote myself as, or, sell myself as someone who is worth being a CRA? And I started doing that. I strictly started applying for CRA jobs. And I happened to land a CRA job in a biotech company in California, Carlsbad, California. And the way it worked there, it was not a traditional CRA job. The company was more, a combination of, I would say, a biotech, but they also acted as a CRO because they had an EEG device which they actually contracted to different sponsor companies to use in their trials. So, and then we had our own in-house trials. So, I was somewhere in the, between them. The reason they chose me because I had a lot of experience with my thesis projects. I had done a thesis project on HIV, and they had a couple of studies related to that. And I had a lot of research background from before. And I was lucky enough to land a job as a CRA. Still, I was not exposed to the core responsibilities that a normal or a typical CRA does, right? I knew that, but I was trying to build as much knowledge as I could. And I believe I worked there for a couple of months, I think 5 or 6 months. And, I think 3 months down the line, when I realized, that I had more potential, I started applying for more jobs. that's when I landed the dream job, the CRA job that I'm currently working at Endologics in California again. This is an in-house CRA job, which is also giving me opportunities to work as a monitor. They are actually training me. They are helping me grow. And that is what I love the most about my job. Not only am I managing trials, I have learned so much about clinical research, which I was not able to learn even from my um, the master's program that I did, right? The hands-on experience, of managing the sites, scheduling visits, monitoring reports, so many different things. And I think I was really lucky enough to be able to realize the potential that I had, and then use that to sell myself to get the right role that I would have deserved.
And if you see me looking down, I'm taking notes. I want to make sure I cover I cover everything. Wow, you said so much. So now so that we're all clear, the first position you got, was that an in-house CRA role or was it traveling?
It was in-house. It was in-house. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make clear on that. And so one thing that you mentioned when you were going on the interviews for the study coordinator positions was that you said you realized that you have a lot of the skills, the attributes, the things that would be applicable for the CRA role. You already had that.
Right.
And so you felt like you could promote yourself and sell yourself.
Right.
And I want to point that out because that is one of the things that I focus on in my coaching program and with helping people, is that it's not particularly about getting as many degrees as possible or, getting those other, like taking another training program, another training course, things like that. It's about taking what you have and then knowing how to promote yourself and sell yourself. So what would you specifically say that you did or that you changed to sell yourself and promote yourself to get that first offer?
Right. So I think the first thing that I did was I actually worked on my resume. Initially it was more about the degrees that I had. It was more about, the courses that I studied. It was more focused on that. Later on, what I did is I also added, the various projects that I have worked on, during my MBA degree or during my master's. And like I said, the reason that I landed the first job was because they were really impressed by a couple of projects that I worked on. Like my thesis was regarding HIV, and they had a couple of studies where they were trying to focus on HIV, and they really wanted to use those skills, right? So they thought that I was a good asset to them. So that is the thing that I did. And people do say that it is really important to draft a resume for various interviews that you give. And I really realized that my resume as a CRC was completely different than what it was as a CRA. And trust me, it helped me a lot. I mean, I really thought of myself as someone who initially it really was more about getting a job because I had a short time frame. I agreed on working on less pays. I remember getting a job offer for like literally $12-13 and an hour, and as a CRC. And I took a pause and I really asked myself that, am I willing to settle? Did I fly all across from India to the United States to work on I wouldn't say it was an average job, but was I really happy, right? Is this my real potential? And it really helped me to do a lot of research. And trust me, the more interviews I gave, be it that I was rejected or be it that I was accepted, and trust me, I had 4 to 5 CRC jobs, job offers, probably even more, because after I landed the CRA job, a lot of people came back to me, with a decision that, they would like to extend an offer, but it was too late, right? So I did have, but a lot of job offers. But was it something that I could, I was using my potential to the maximum? Was it something that I really wanted to do? There is no harm in starting as a CRC, because I know there are a lot of people in the United States, they use that route to get a CRA position. But I had a lot of experience. I wouldn't say experience, but I had a lot of knowledge. And if I could really skip that step and, get a CRA position directly, would I not take that chance? Would I not take the risk? Do I really have to be afraid that, since I'm an international student, getting a job is a priority? Or, you know, I am a professional who's going to be, working for a company. Do I need to be happy first, or, worry about other things
Right.
first? A lot of considerations, a lot of stress, a lot of research. And trust me, I learned the most from the interviews I was rejected from. I really applied for CTA positions, CRA positions as well, because CTAs were also kind of, starting to be in the administration role, and then
Yeah.
you could climb up, because I did see a lot of people on my LinkedIn, who did that.
Right.
I tried everything possible, and I had feedback. I took that positively, and I used it to build my resume, the way I approached, the way I answered my questions, everything. I After a point, I had an example, from a real life situation or experience that I had, be it as small as, working on a project during my MBA course, or working on a project during my master's program, or during my undergrad, everything. But I came up with, examples where I showed and I proved that, I was capable of doing that.
Wow. You said so much. And really a lot of it is things that I tell people every day. So I'm glad you're saying this, because they think I'm crazy, like, really, if tailoring my resume makes a difference? Yes, it absolutely does. If you send out that same resume, it's going to be different. Your resume has to be tailored to that specific job description. It makes a huge, huge difference.
It does.
And then being able to sell yourself. You said that, regardless of how small the experience was, you took it and you showed them how that made you capable of doing the job, how you could be an asset to the team. And it's really a very valuable skill that a lot of people don't necessarily have, but it's something that you can learn and you can work on and you can improve on. And that makes a huge difference in your interviews as well. Because they can't always, the recruiters, the hiring managers, they can't always just look at your resume and see it. You have to be able to translate that to them clearly during an interview. And you've done that so well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow. That is amazing. And then just to, like I said, you touched on so many things. But I also wanted to point out the fact that you said, within about 3 months of getting that first position, you realized, hey, I should be applying again. I can do more. I can do better. And you didn't wait. Most people will say you don't want to job hop. I would be what most would call a job hopper. You don't want to job hop. You need to wait a year. That's what most people say. Some people say 2 years. So yet again, here you are taking that bold, brave step, doing against what is considered the norm anyways, and started applying again, and to get that next role within 3 months. So what would you do? Would you, tell people about that? Do you think it hurt your career, or do you think it has been a benefit?
So while I started applying, I really for a second thought that, probably I'm trying to hurt my career here, because the first question any recruiter had is, why do you want to switch? Why do you want to change the job? And especially, when you are an international student, where you have to look for companies that are ready to sponsor visas in future, it became more difficult, and initially I had setbacks. I really didn't know that, I always give the honest answer, but it really did not work out in my favor. And I had to, probably take a pause and, you know, understand that why do I need a job change. And then that's when again I worked on my resume to show that what I have already learned from my current position, and that I am capable enough to go on a next position, and and be able to have that growth. And it was not easy, but the current job that I'm working in, I had a big panel interview, not only with the manager but 6 other people. And most of those interviews, to be honest, they were they had their questions. They wanted to know what did I know, but they also it was more like a candid conversation, the one like we're having right now. They supported me. They made me understand, and they were able to identify that I do have a lot of theory based knowledge in this industry, and then I do have certain skills, but they were willing to give me that one chance to prove myself. And I am so happy that I have been in that company for about, I think, 9 or 10 months, and I have proven myself. People are happy with me, people are happy with my work, and it has been I am able to see that in certain emails or people approaching me for questions. I could probably help them or something like that. And that really just gives me more motivation to understand that I did the right thing, and I'm so happy I made the decision to switch. And I think if you are not certain about your job, or not certain about you know is this everything that you could do, or if you think even for like 10% that you can do much more, push yourself. Try to learn more. Try to I would say work on your resume, and draft it in a way where your real skills, your true skills are being shown. And not everybody knows everything. I have just started my career, and I think even you've been in this industry for so long, but I think you would agree that there are certain things that even you may not be aware of.
Yep.
Changes are happening every now and then, and you always have to keep yourself updated, especially in our industry, with
Yeah.
changes in regulations and rules, the guidelines. So I think you really need to keep yourself updated with everything. And it's okay to accept that you don't know certain things. But what is more important is you are willing to learn, right?
Yep.
A company, majority of the times, looks at that you are willing to learn. And I think that what really helped me a lot with this
Wow.
particular job.
Wow. So amazing. Like you have overcome so many obstacles to get to where you are now. I think it's just incredible. And then one thing that you mentioned earlier was once you got to the second position, your current role, is that yes, you had a lot of educational training.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of knowledge and things like that. But once you started getting that hands-on experience, it was like, a light bulb, like night and day. Like you started learning so much more.
Correct.
Yeah. So share a little bit more about that, because not everybody is as fortunate as you are to get an in-house CRA or CRA job, from school. They do have to become a study coordinator or CTA.
Correct. Right.
But I always tell them that don't worry about that, because you're getting valuable, priceless experience, and
Right.
that you can't replace that with, not to say don't get, graduate level degrees, because I have one. So I'm not discouraging that, but, it's still totally different from experience versus the degree. So talk a little bit more about that and the difference between the hands-on experience you were able to get versus what you learned while you were in school.
Right. So just because I'm an international student, for me to be able to work in the United States, the straight road, for me to be able to come to the United States and then have a career here, is that I actually need to get a master's here. And then based on my master's, whether it is a STEM course or it is not, I am able to get certain amount of time to be able to work. And because that was the only option for an international student, that is the reason we always choose to have, a graduate degree in the United
Right.
States. Yeah,
Right.
that's a very, I would say that's the easiest way to start. It's
Right.
not easy to be able to continue doing that on a long term because we have a lot of visa restrictions and everything. But that is what really helps us to be able to even work. For people in the United States, it I think I know a lot of people who started working as a CRC just after high school because they had gained enough experience in science. And there were institutions or I would say universities, especially academics, where there were professors who were ready to give them a chance to be a CRC. They started their career early on. I know a lot of people, I have known people who actually came from sales background, technically non-science, nothing related to science. So my first job I was working in, the research associate along with me, you know, he did not have a science background, but he really enjoyed doing that. And since he was exposed to that particular field, he wanted to make a career out of it. So, there are a lot of people, and I think my advice to especially people who are in the United States, I would say that if I were and I had my undergrad degree, I wouldn't really be I wouldn't really consider doing a master's because there are um sponsor companies or different companies who are willing to give you jobs just after your
Yeah.
undergrad degrees, right? Starting as a CRC, if you it's easy to get a job if you have a science-based degree than someone who does not have one. But if you are willing to work a lot on it and try to get as much, I would say, experience and knowledge in the field, there would be someone out there who is willing to take a chance on you. You may have to compromise on salaries areas, but it's going to be worth it on a
Mm-hmm.
long term,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would give them that advice. But for people coming from India, what really happens is that we have to do like a master's,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't say India, but any other country, because that is a way that we could really start working here. And that is the reason my approach was a bit different, because I had some experience. I had a graduate degree in pharmacy. I know a friend who was actually a physician in UK, and then she came to do the same course as me, and she's working as a safety monitor right now. Because she has those experience set with her. She's been a physician before, right? So there are different things that you could do. You could use your knowledge to, but if you really think you don't have the knowledge, you can directly start with experience, because that really helps. So today, if I were to decide that I probably want to switch a job, I have enough experience as a CRA that I could try and jump to a CRA2 position or a traveling CRA position, because I've done that much, I've received that much hands-on experience. So I would always choose experience about, getting that knowledge. Knowledge is important. I am not saying that, don't do that degree. If you
Right.
really
Right.
wish, do it. I wanted to
Right.
do a degree. I did it. But you have to realize the fine line between, there are some practical considerations. Like, do you really want to invest that much money in getting a degree? What is your return on investment on that? Would you, rather, do a job for 2 years or, study for 2 years? I know a lot of people here who have an option of doing certificate courses, and a lot of universities, they, especially in the COVID scenario, have started, offering online classes. There are so many online masters in clinical research program
Yeah.
within the United States. There are so many different options now. So for someone who is a citizen here or a green card holder here, it is, the best approach, I would say, is start working as well. And if you really think that you want to add to it, you could go look for some certification courses, which will help you get knowledge, right? So I think that would be my advice. but it's going to be different because, the way it really works for two different set of population here, right, is different. And I really
Right.
belong to that immigrant population, and I had restrictions and I
Right.
worked around for myself.
Right. You're right. It depends on your status,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are a citizen, if you are immigrant, that makes a lot of a difference
It
too.
does.
But for people that are already citizens, like you said, I always say, I agree with you. If you have a bachelor's degree, whatever it's in, it doesn't have to be in the science, and you have an opportunity to become a study coordinator or a CTA, go ahead and take that job. And then, like you said, there's so many online graduate degrees, even undergraduate degrees now.
Right.
But there's so many online degrees that you can actually, and then they have part-time options too. You can work, get experience, and then at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
get an advanced degree. And even a bachelor's degree, I've found that there's some positions out there. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the salary might not be as high, but some CTA positions, some study coordinator positions at, like, the smaller private practice doctor's offices. Well, they'll take you and train you and without a bachelor's degree. And you can
Correct.
even start there and at the same time get your degree. So by the time you graduate,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have all this irreplaceable experience and then be able to go on to the CRA role.
That is so true. And, even while you were studying, during your undergrad, you could actually work part time or get
Yep.
internships, right? And I know at
Yep.
UCSD, I mean, we have so many hospitals here, affiliated with UCSD, and they have so many trials going on. So my first thesis project that, I could have potentially completed, but because of time restraints, I could, restrictions, I could not. I could actually work. I was actually working at the clinical trials building at, so it's the ACGRI, which works on clinical trials basically. So I was working out of that particular office at UCSD, and they, the you can work with your mentor or you can work with any professor. It's as simple as going, connecting, or networking with the professors and asking them that, do you have a position for me? Or it's okay if they're not paying you right during your undergrad probably, but
Right.
that really adds. Even if you have worked as a CRC or a study coordinator for 3 months and have some valuable experience, that you know how to
Yep.
review an consent form or how to recruit subjects. There is someone out there who is willing to take a chance on you, at least as someone, for recruitment or, consenting patients. And then you can always start from there, right?
Yep. Yep. I agree 100%. Don't overlook internships, volunteering, any way that you can get experience.
Right.
You have to be open to it.
Mhm.
I actually did an internship at a small site, for a while before I was able to get my first position. So you have to really be open to doing, whatever you can, whatever you need to. I
Mhm.
completely agree. And then I also wanted to point out the fact that you mentioned it a couple of times that you had to take a pause and ask yourself, is this something that you really want to do? Is this something that you use the word settle? Do you want to settle for this? Not like you said to say that the other positions are bad or they're less than or beneath you, but in terms of where you are and what you can offer, is this something you want to settle for? And I tell people all the time, it's not just about the company, but it's about you too. And what are
Right.
your own personal goals? And what are your own personal values? And they both have to match.
Right.
So share with us, it's tough also. I want to throw this out there for the people that are like, well, it's easy for y'all to say because you already have a job, or maybe you're not in we're not in the same financial situation as them. So they say it's easy for you to say if you're not struggling for money or what have you. So a lot of people, they make decisions out of desperation, perhaps simply because, maybe a financial situation. But I've been there. Trust me. I was at a point after I had my master's where I was working for $7.25 an hour. $7.25.
Oh my God.
So yes. So I trust me, and for anybody that's thinking, oh, you don't know because you never you never had to struggle, I get it. But I still had to, I asked myself the same questions that you did. I took that job in the moment because I needed money, but I never stopped applying. I never stopped doing the same things that we talked about. So kind of share with everybody, for somebody that may be thinking, well, I can't take a pause. I have to take this job. I don't have a choice. I have to settle. Kind of share what your thought process was when you said, no, I cannot settle. I have to keep going for more.
Mm-hmm. Right. So every time that, even while between friends, if I'm having a conversation, whether to, I am getting an offer, it's a bit low, should I take it or not? I always say, if you have an opportunity, grab it. But that does not mean that you're settling. What means by settling is that you're grabbing the opportunity and you don't do anything to grow yourself, right? If you think that, currently you need money, you need time, take the opportunity, work on it, learn, probably do some more research, work on your resume to make it better. And, while you're doing all of that, you're still earning money, some money, but it's still fine. But if you're still working towards your next goal, it does not mean that you've settled. No, that's not settled. If you think that currently what you're doing is really going to be an investment for a future job, it is not settling. It's
Right.
the right thing at that moment. And we all do things out of desperations. Like, I had a deadline, there's a certain amount of time I need a job, so the way it works for any international student is that once you complete a master's, you have to apply for a work permit known as OPT. It's like it's a work permit post masters. It's for 1 year, and then if you've done a STEM course, it's for 2 years. So we decided it.
And not to cut you off, you said it's OPT.
Yes.
Okay.
OPT. Yes.
Okay.
It's basically a training that you can do in the United States because you've done a master's from United States.
Okay.
So it's OPT, and I graduated in September, and I wanted my start date to be 1st of October. I gave myself some time, end of September, that I would probably work on getting a job, some spare amount of time. I did not have a job until 15th of October. And those 15 days were basically like I was jobless. And that really counts because I can't go more than 60 days without work in the United States on my visa. I was stressed. I was desperate. I really needed a job. But I actually took a pause and I decided on, what is I really want to do? Do I want to take the risk? I was giving interviews and I was sure in some that I probably land this job. So that was my decision. But if I had no other interview, I just had probably one job in hand, I would have taken it because that came out of desperation. But that did not mean that I would stop applying once I have a job, right? So I think that's the type of approach you really want. We all have certain issues, and be it if you've studied here, if you are an immigrant, anything, we come out of some restrictions, personal or implied, anything. It could be anything. But the decisions that you take at that moment, are really something that's going to define your whole career. Your probably, I wouldn't say the whole career, but your next step, right? So if it is important to take a job, take it. If you think you can give yourself some time, try harder, or take the job and try harder. It is really personal. You have to make the decision and probably just not regret it if you really think it was wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Great advice. Great advice. I always say, those same things, and it can be scary. Like you said, there was a time where you were panicking. Most people, we've had those moments, and of course, yours being an international student, an immigrant, things of those of that nature, the panic can be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, you still found a way to make it work, make it happen. And I just think that that's so amazing. So now you're at your current role. You share with us you're learning so many different things. Future plans. Do you plan on transitioning into a travel CRA? Do you enjoy the in-house CRA role, and do you plan on going straight for management? What are your future plans?
Correct. So I I do want monitoring experience, and I think that I will be able to do that. I think that I am at a position right now that I do have experience in monitoring, and if I really want to transition, I can, just working again from the scratch, building my resume, applying for the right jobs, trying to understand the market, trying to understand what experience I have, what I can offer to the next company. Yes, but I really enjoy the in-house position. I at times really, feel that my background is really helping me, make decisions, act on, if there are any issues, promptly act on them, trying hard to get a solution to issues. So I am still trying to discover what I really, really love. Because of the COVID situation, I've not really got a chance to travel. um, I always think of it this way, that currently I do not have some responsibilities that can, restrict me from traveling. So if I have an opportunity of traveling, I would not say no to it. I have some colleagues, who had to take breaks. They had children. So, traveling got really difficult. And then now there's COVID. So, they really don't want to travel because they have small children or elderly parents. For me, I don't have those restrictions. Right now it's just me trying to build my career here all alone. I don't have family here. Anybody, really, all my family is back in India. So I don't really have to do a lot of considerations. So I am open to traveling. So if I have an opportunity, I will definitely grab that, because this is my current situation. I don't know what is going to be 5 years down the line, but currently I am open to growing, right? There is a bit of difference in both, being an in-house CRA and monitor. But what I really enjoy about my current position is it not only gives me in-house CRA experience, but it also is giving me monitoring experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I am still trying to gain more and more experience as much as I can, and probably just take some time to decide where what I really want to do. Do I want to get into like
Right.
traveling or management? So I am still trying to figure that out. But I would say not everybody would be in that position. But it's really important to understand that, are you loving what you're doing? There's always, I know a lot of people who were just monitors, but they came into site management, being in-house CRAs or lead CRAs, like we call them, you know project managers, something like that, because they now do not want to travel.
Yeah.
So that is always an option for me to get back into, if I
Yeah.
ever choose to be a traveling monitor, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still, I think I'm pretty new. I think I am getting a lot of learning opportunities here. And if I ever do, I'm going to take a lot of time to actually decide. Another thing is that we do have visa restrictions. So I also need to understand that I just cannot keep jumping between jobs every time, because it is really more difficult to also get to work with a company that is willing to sponsor visa. And now that I am at a company where I'm happy working and they are also willing to sponsor my visa, why would I take the risk?
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So that is another consideration, that I always have back in
Right. And I love the way you think. You always do your research, you do your homework, you see the different options, you create a plan, then you take action and you execute on the plan. And that's literally exactly what I've done, what I tell other people to do, the people that I work with. That's literally what anybody that's successful, that's literally what we all do, right?
That is true.
So I just and I have to point out the fact that you said you're over here, no families over here. They're all back in India. It's not like it's down the street, and you haven't let it stop you. I mean, that is so incredible because there's people that I have friends and family who they live in Georgia and they don't want to even move 2 or 3 states over because they're going to be by themselves or they don't have any, there's no family there. And they use that as their reason for not taking the opportunity. But you really can't. I don't want to say excuse because, we all have our different challenges and, for whatever reason, maybe it's easier for me and you to move than somebody else.
Good.
So I don't want to say it's an excuse, but you have to be open to stepping outside of your, comfort zone, and be willing to take a chance. If you want to get to the next level, you have to.
That is true. Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Yes, and you've shown that time and time again. I mean, you've done that. And I said it before, I say it again, I commend you. And it's just so amazing to see all the things that you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. And your story is just beginning, honestly. We're not even in the middle.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So I know we've talked a long time, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. But first of all, any last thoughts, words, tips, advice that you want to give to the international students, to the immigrants, people that are listening that they're in another country somewhere and they're trying to get over to the US to get into clinical research to become a CRA. What would you like to say to these people?
Yes, I think it's really important to do your research, especially I would say the visa point of view, from the visa point of view. I really wanted to cover this because this is something that not a lot of people understand. And, once you are in the United States, you have a lot of debt and you just can't go back, right? It gets really difficult to, just go back and start from scratch. Yeah. So I would say first thing is give yourself enough time, do your research for the right college, choose the right college before coming to the United States. Try to have an idea of, what you really want to study before even applying. I did have, I had my own doubts, I was not 100% sure, but I am happy where I am. So I wouldn't say be 100% sure, but, have at least like a general outline as to what do you want to do or where do you see yourself, being in a couple of years. It will really help. Look at the courses from a visa standpoint. There are courses that are not STEM courses, so you will only have 1 year after completing your master's to work. There are courses that are STEM courses, which will allow you, 1 + 2 years, which is like 3 years time to work in the United States. Irrespective of you have 1 year or 3 years, you will have to apply. You will have to actually work for a company that is ready to sponsor your H-1B visa, which is like a work visa post your OPT, which is the training that I'm talking about. So what happens is if you have just 1 year, you get one chance to apply for that visa. And that H-1B visa for Indians, especially Indians and Chinese, mainly is a lottery system. So you have to be lucky enough to, get your application drawn from, I would say, hundreds of thousands of people actually applying that year. So that is a restriction. So I always would suggest that you actually do a course, which is a STEM course, so that you at least have 3 years, which means you have 3 tries, to go through that lottery system and, get more chances of being drawn in that system. There are certain companies, who do not, sponsor H-1B visas. I would suggest that you do not waste your time, applying in those companies, because, everything happens and then, the company is really not ready. It's just that you're trying to waste their, you end up wasting theirs and yours time. You could have done more research and applied in a company that actually sponsors. So there are tools out there. There's a H-1B checker tool. It's like a Google Chrome extension. So every time you're on LinkedIn and you have a job, or you see a job like a CRA position, say at Icon, right? So Icon is a CRO. So if you see a position there, you can click on the checker and see if Icon actually applies for H-1B or has ever filed for H-1B and green card. I would also suggest that you read the job description, because a lot of times, like Icon has started, mentioning that we want someone who does not require visa sponsorships, right? So that means that, Icon will not sponsor. So you would not waste your time applying, go through the whole application, rather search for jobs that are willing to do it. Some companies are comparatively new, startups or research institutions, they're comparatively new. They don't really have an idea, or they really need to work with their HR, especially if you're working in academics. They really need to work with, HR to understand if your position will be, sponsored with the visa, right? So you really want to have that conversation and that amount of clarity. So the checker that I mentioned about, that's a really useful tool. You can just directly find on LinkedIn if, the company applies. Some companies that I personally know that apply for H-1B. So when I talk about sponsors, I know Pfizer does, I know Amgen does, I know Novartis does for some of them. There are certain medical device companies like Medtronic, Edwards, Endologics that I work in. They are willing to sponsor. CROs like IQVIA, LabCorp, that, and then we also have there was another big CRO which recently got acquired by Thermo Fisher. I completely forgot the name. I'm sorry about that, but that's another.
Thermo Fisher?
Yeah. That's with.
Could it be? Was it Par Excel? I didn't hear about that.
No, not Parexel. It's I really completely forgot the name. I had it back in my mind.
Is it Worldwide?
No, but Worldwide does at times. They sponsor visas. It's a very famous one.
Well, Icon bought PRA.
Mm-hmm. I think you've worked in the one that I'm talking about.
Well, LabCorp bought COVID.
Yeah. So that's the reason I said LabCorp. I know Thermo Fisher recently it acquired it. It's a very big one.
I don't know who else.
No, let me do a quick check. I really want to do it because I know they do it. I know they do it. It
can't be IQVIA. Because they just, they merged with IMS. Who else have I worked for? PPD.
Yes, PPD.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
Yes, recently, I think late last year. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So everybody is either merging or being bought out.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so PPD is another one.
Okay.
They have a lot of opportunities for regional CRAs, traveling CRAs, and they do, sponsor visa. So that is a great company, if you really want to target. But yeah, I would really, really say that, this is a restriction. This is never going to go, if you really want to be in the United States until you're able to get your green card, your visa restriction would stay with you. So make a decision knowing that, things can change based on the government, your situations can change. You may have to leave United States, but if you're willing to take the risk, it is definitely worth it, because the amount of exposure you have in the United States. And when I left India, clinical research was something that was not booming, or was, a lot of the pharmacy students did a lot of exposure to it, unless you a job in a sponsor company and you got to learn about it, and then you decided to make a shift. So I know one of my seniors, she's currently working as a CRA for AstraZeneca in India. So the amount of exposure about clinical research is really less. And I would really want you to do your research, and if you really think that it is the right fit for you, the amount of exposure you have, the growth curve, the learning curve here is definitely worth the hustle and the risks.
Oh wow. And then just to point out the Chrome extension that you mentioned, that people can get. So it'll show them if the company does sponsor. Can they just Google the extension?
Yes, they can. And I could also send out that link to you so that you can add it to your link, the YouTube link. So that is going to be really helpful as well.
Okay, yeah. If you don't mind, and then I'll add that when we make this available, just so people can know where to go to get this extension. I didn't even know that they had an extension for that. That's amazing. Wow.
Yes, you see, when you start getting into this, you start doing research, there are so many tools out there that could be helpful. I think there are really a lot of groups as well on LinkedIn, like the clinical research groups. And then, some in general, there are groups for, immigrants specifically, where, on Facebook and LinkedIn, where they actually answer questions about visa situation, and then if you have specific question about your field, and if there is someone from your field who could really help you out, there are certain groups like that.
Oh, wow. That's good to know too. Yeah, and you've taken advantage of everything that I always recommend. I think most people, myself included at one point, we want a quick fix, right? We want to be able to just hop right in. There's some type of magic pill or secret, but it's not. It's really doing your research, your homework, networking, all the things we've talked about today, and you've been doing it all. So, for the people that are already citizens, they don't necessarily have that extra added challenge of making sure they're able to stay within the country. What advice, tips, guidance would you give to those people that are trying to get into the CRA role?
Right. So I think that it is good to start as a CRC. There is no harm in doing that. A lot of people have done it. But if you believe that, you have some experience, probably say some managing experience or, some administrative experience, and you could really use it, you can actually also target for CTA roles. A lot of companies, they try to then, work with their employees and see if, what growth they are looking for themselves, and then can help you advance from a CTA role to a CRA role. So, that is also a good start. I have seen not everybody really, does that, because probably some people may not even know about a CTA role, but that is also an option that I've seen people using. I would also say that, there are certifications that you can probably do to add your knowledge. These are not, I would say, official ones, because the official ones are, the ones that we have from ACRP or SOCRA. They are only available to you after a certain amount of experience in this industry. But there are, universities that give you online certifications in clinical research administration or clinical research management, which is more focused in, the trial management, monitoring perspective. I also did, my company was kind enough to let me do a monitoring course. Um, um, and that really helped me. So they really had these activities where, they not only teach about the guidelines, not only about, the theory part, but we also received like a package of different activities that we really did, while I was, doing that. So it was like a course that I did only for monitoring to get more about monitoring, how to approach things. If you have a certain question, how do you, go about it? If to identify if a certain situation is an AE or not, something like that. So that was really helpful. There are courses out there. Go and, probably try to learn from them. Do that. There are certain courses really expensive, but you will always find a free version. You can always join groups or probably have a mentor like Jasmine is. She's a really great mentor, and trust me, I have learned a lot of things from you, Jasmine. So you can always approach a mentor, to help you out, to guide you. And there's no harm in networking, reaching out to people who are really kind enough to help you, and you should do that. Networking is also a key here. And you know I would just say focus on what you want and you will be able to achieve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very, very, very well said. So, to wrap things up here today, where can people, if they want to reach out to you, if they want to connect with you, if they want to, network with you, where can people find you?
Yes. So, I am always available to, talk to people, LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, and then my email address. I am happy to share it with people. I would say that I am more responsive on LinkedIn than I'm on my emails,
Yeah.
because LinkedIn is, it's more like a messenger where I can receive, an notification if somebody's trying to message me. You can always connect with me. I really accept connection requests from anybody. And if you can send a message that you are certainly looking for this kind of help while you're trying to add me or connect with me, it's gonna kind of give me more clarity, and I will definitely connect back with you, and we can always have a chat. I am willing to share my number, once you have connected with me, and I really think that you may probably I would be probably able to help you better on a call or something like that. I am willing to do that. And yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best way. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So again, thank you so, so much, Janvi, for joining us here today and sharing your incredible story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think the last thing that I really want to say is smile. Just like your smile, dream, believe, and go get what you want to achieve in life.
Thank you. So amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. Have a good day.